10 New Most Disturbing True Trucker Horror Stories. Story 1, The Breathing Cargo. The reefer unit's temperature gauge read -8 degrees Fahrenheit when I heard the first breath from inside the trailer. Not a mechanical sound. I've hauled refrigerated loads for 12 years, know every rattle and hiss a cooling system makes. This was organic, rhythmic, human, and it was coming from a trailer that should have contained nothing but 40,000 pounds of frozen beef destined for grocery distribution centers across Nebraska. My name is Robert Hayes. I picked up the load at a meat processing plant outside Omaha at 11:47 p.m. on March 14, 2023. The facility looked standard: concrete building, harsh sodium lights, workers in blood-stained white coats moving between loading bays. The foreman, a heavyset man with frost in his beard, had me back up to Dock 7. Told me not to open the trailer doors under any circumstances. Said the seals had to remain intact for USDA inspection at delivery. Nothing unusual about that. Signed the bills, sealed the trailer, and rolled out onto I-80 westbound. The breathing started somewhere past Lincoln. I'd been driving for 3 hours, halfway through an audiobook about the Donner Party, probably not the best choice given what I was hauling, when I killed the radio to listen. Thought maybe I'd heard something over the engine noise. That's when I caught it clearly. Slow, measured inhalations. Long exhalations that fogged in the cold air, somehow reaching through the insulated trailer walls. I could see the condensation forming on my rear-view mirror as whatever was back there breathed out. I pulled onto the shoulder at mile marker 312, hazards flashing, and climbed out. The night was crystalline cold, stars sharp enough to cut. My breath came in clouds as I walked the length of the trailer, checking the seals. All intact, Department of Agriculture stamps unbroken. The refrigeration unit hummed its normal mechanical rhythm. But underneath that sound, through the insulated walls, I heard it. In, out, like something massive was sleeping in there. My hand was reaching for my phone to call the foreman when the breathing pattern changed. Faster now, urgent, as if whatever was inside knew I was standing out here. Knew I was listening. The trailer creaked, not the normal settling sounds of metal in cold air, but the sound of weight shifting, of something moving. I should have driven straight to the nearest truck stop and refused the load. Should have called the company, demanded they send someone else. Instead, I climbed back in the cab and kept driving. Money was tight. My daughter's college tuition was due in 2 weeks, and this run paid double because of the overnight delivery requirement. I told myself I was imagining things, sleep deprivation, too much caffeine, the mind playing tricks in the dark. But I couldn't stop checking the trailer and my mirrors, watching for any sign of movement. The breathing continued, steady and constant, mile after mile. Somewhere around Kearney, I noticed the temperature gauge dropping. The reefer unit was set for -8 degrees, but the readout showed -12, then -15. The unit itself wasn't straining. If anything, it sounded like it was barely working, like something else was pulling heat out of that trailer. At -20 degrees, frost began forming on the outside of the trailer walls. I could see it spreading in the glow of passing headlights, crystalline patterns that looked almost deliberate, almost like words. I refused to slow down enough to read them. Mile marker 389 is where the scratching started. Metal on metal, not frantic, methodical, calculated, like someone with all the time in the world working at something. The sound came from inside the trailer walls themselves, between the outer shell and the insulation. How anything could be in there, I had no idea. The trailer was sealed. I'd watched them close the doors myself. My CB radio crackled. Northbound driver at marker 389, you've got something strange with your trailer. I grabbed the receiver. What do you see? Can't rightly describe it. Looks like movement. Inside the walls. I'm probably just tired, but I'd get that checked if I were you. I checked my mirrors. Saw a southbound semi passing me, driver's face a pale oval in his cab. Then he was gone, and I was alone again with whatever was in my trailer. The scratching intensified, became rhythmic, became a pattern. 3 scratches, pause, 7 scratches, pause, 3 scratches, again and again. I realized with creeping horror that it matched Morse code. SOS, something inside was signaling for help. But that meant something conscious was in there. Something that knew Morse code. Something freezing to death at -25 degrees. The gauge kept dropping and desperately trying to communicate. I pulled off at the next exit, a nothing. G-Town called Ogallala and found a closed gas station. Parked under the dead lights and sat in the cab, engine idling, trying to decide what to do. The breathing was louder now. I could hear it over my own heartbeat. The scratching had stopped, but something worse had replaced it, a wet, organic sound, like meat thawing, like flesh moving against itself. That's when I saw the blood. It seeped from beneath the trailer doors, black in the dim light, pooling on the pavement. Not frozen despite the negative 30 degrees, the gauge kept dropping, but liquid and warm, steaming in the cold air. Too much blood for any reasonable explanation. Gallons of it spreading in a dark lake beneath my trailer. I should have run, should have left the truck and hitchhiked back to Omaha and never driven again. Instead, I approached the trailer doors. The seals were still intact, but the doors themselves were bulging outward. Something inside was pressing against them with enormous force. The metal creaked and groaned, and through the gap between the doors where the blood was pouring out, I saw something move. An eye massive, pale, with a rectangular pupil. It blinked at me. My hands shook as I called the foreman. No answer. Called the meat processing plant. Number disconnected. Called the delivery address. Didn't exist. I checked the GPS. The coordinates led to an empty field outside North Platte. The eye was still watching me. I stumbled backward, and that's when I noticed my truck. The whole thing was covered in frost now, ice an inch thick coating every surface. My breath came in ragged gasps, and I realized I could see it hanging in the air, not dissipating. The cold was spreading from the trailer, spreading into the cab, into me. I climbed into the driver's seat, fingers numb, and found the temperature inside the cab had dropped to 40 degrees. The windshield was frosting over from the inside. I blasted the heater, but it did nothing. The cold was alive, was hungry, was pulling heat out of everything it touched. In my mirror, I watched the trailer doors bulge further. Metal shrieked. The seals held, but the doors themselves were deforming, bending outward. Something impossibly large was trying to force its way out. Not breaking the seals, that would have been too simple. Instead, it was changing the shape of the trailer itself, metal flowing like wax while technically keeping the seals intact. The breathing was deafening now. The entire truck shook with each inhalation. I threw the transmission into gear and floored it, trailer doors still bulging, blood still pouring onto the pavement. Raced back onto I-80 doing 90 miles per hour with a load that should have weighed 40,000 pounds but felt like nothing. Like the trailer was empty. Like whatever was inside had no mass at all. Mile marker 412, my CB radio crackled again. Except this time the voice coming through wasn't human, too deep, resonating at frequencies that made my bones ache. Thank you for the delivery, Robert Hayes. It knew my name. The temperature gauge read negative 58 degrees. Ice covered everything now. My hands were frozen to the steering wheel. My breath crystallized in the air and fell like snow. I couldn't feel my feet on the pedals, but the truck kept moving, accelerating as if something else was controlling it. The exit for North Platte appeared, and my hands turned the wheel without my permission. Guided the truck off the highway and onto country roads, past empty farmhouses and dead fields, following coordinates to a delivery address that didn't exist. Until it did. The field from the GPS coordinates wasn't empty anymore. Somehow, impossibly, a building stood there now. Massive, industrial, with loading docks and harsh sodium lights, identical to the facility in Omaha where I'd picked up the load. Workers in blood-stained white coats moved between bays, their breath not fogging in the negative 60-degree cold. They guided me backward toward Dock 7. The foreman who'd loaded me approached my cab. Same man, same frost in his beard. Perfect timing, right on schedule. I tried to speak, but my jaw was frozen shut. Tried to move, but the ice held me in place. Through my mirror, I watched them break the seals and open the trailer doors. Nothing poured out, no massive creature. No horror beyond comprehension, just steam. Condensation as warmer air rushed into the negative 68-degree trailer, and there, hanging from meat hooks in perfect rows, were cattle carcasses, exactly what the manifest said I was hauling. Except the carcasses were breathing, and they all turned their heads to look at me. Good delivery, the foreman said, handing me a clipboard through the window. The paper was warm, my frozen fingers managed to grip it. Same time next week. I wanted to scream, to refuse, to tell him I'd never drive again. But my hand was already signing the delivery confirmation, already accepting the next load. My lips, frozen and cracked, were already saying, "Yes, sir." They unhooked the trailer and I drove away empty. The cold began to fade around Grand Island. By Lincoln, I could feel my fingers again. By Omaha, everything seemed normal. I told myself it had been a hallucination, some kind of breakdown, carbon monoxide leak. But I still smell the cold sometimes, still wake up with frost on my pillows, and every time I check my schedule, there's always another load from Dock 7. Another overnight delivery to coordinates that don't exist until I arrive. The bills always pay double. My daughter's tuition is always covered, and I always accept. Because last night I noticed something. When I breathe out, sometimes it doesn't fog, the air just gets colder. And yesterday I found myself craving raw meat, not cooked. Raw, still cold from the refrigerator. I have another pickup scheduled for tonight at 11:47 p.m. I'm trying to remember what warmth feels like. Story 2, the mile THAT-REPATS. Exit 247 off Highway 50 in Nevada has appeared 16 times tonight, and I've only driven 73 miles. My name is Patricia Sullivan. I've logged over 2 million miles in 18 years behind the wheel, and I know when something is wrong with a road. This isn't construction detours, isn't GPS malfunction. The mile markers themselves are repeating. Mile 247, over and over, 16 times and counting. It started normal enough. Left Reno at 8 p.m. on September 9, 2023, hauling electronics to Salt Lake City. Clear night, empty highway. The kind of peaceful run where you can think, maybe listen to music, watch stars bright enough to navigate by before GPS existed. I was making good time, running parallel to an abandoned railroad bed, when I noticed the same rest area passing on my right for the third time in 20 minutes. Not similar, identical, same flickering light in the restroom building. Same RV parked at the far end with a blue tarp over the roof. Same rust stain on the concrete shaped like Florida. I checked my odometer. I'd driven 41 miles since Reno. But according to every landmark, I was passing the same location over and over. I grabbed my CB radio. Any drivers on Highway 50 eastbound? Anybody else experiencing something strange? Static, then a voice, female, sounding scared. It's happening to you too, the repetitions. Yeah, how many times have you passed the rest area with the blue tarp RV? Long pause. 47 times. I've been driving this loop since yesterday morning. My fuel gauge says I should be empty, but it stays at 3/4. My clock says 20 hours have passed, but my phone insists it's only been 90 minutes. My hands tightened on the wheel. Where are you? I don't see any other trucks. That's the thing, I can see you, right ahead of me, but you're also behind me and next to me. There are dozens of trucks on this road, all of them your truck, all of them me watching you. I checked my mirrors, empty road, nothing but my trailer and the white lines disappearing into darkness. I don't see you. Because we're not in the same version. We're all driving the same mile, but we're not together. Her voice cut out. Mile marker 247 appeared again, 17th time. I slowed down, trying to observe differences. Anything that proved this wasn't the exact same stretch of road, but every detail matched. The bent guardrail at mile 247.3, the billboard for a casino that closed in 1987, the specific pattern of cracks in the pavement. Even the tumbleweeds were positioned identically, rolling across the road at the exact same moment. That's when I noticed my CB was still transmitting. The button was pressed, even though I'd let go. And through the speaker, I could hear my own voice saying words I hadn't spoken yet. I'm going to stop, see if that breaks the loop. But I hadn't said that, hadn't even thought it. The voice on the CB, my voice continued. Bad idea, Patricia, don't stop. Whatever you do, keep moving. I jerked the CB microphone away from my mouth. It wasn't pressed anymore, but my voice kept transmitting, arguing with itself, one version saying to stop, another saying to accelerate, a third screaming to turn around. All of them me, all of them broadcasting from somewhere on this endless mile. The mile marker appeared, 18th time. I tried turning around, pulled a U-turn across the median and headed back toward Reno. But the road ahead was still Highway 50 eastbound. The sign still pointed to Salt Lake City. I was driving in reverse, against the direction I was facing, the road itself contradicting physics. My headlights showed me moving forward while every sense in my body felt the truck going backward. Mile marker 247, 19th time. My phone rang. The caller ID showed my own number. I let it go to voicemail. Immediately, my voicemail notification appeared. I played the message with shaking H. Ends. My voice, but wrong. Older. Exhausted beyond measure. Patricia, this is you. Version 641. I've been driving this mile for what my body says is 7 months, but every clock says is 3 hours. Listen carefully. The mile feeds on time. Every repetition, it takes more. Not from your clock, from your life, from your memory, from the universe's memory of you. I can't remember my daughter's name anymore. Can't remember what my house looks like. Can't remember any road except this one. You need to. The message cut off. I pulled over, hazards flashing, and stepped out of the cab. The air was wrong, too still. No wind, even though tumbleweeds kept rolling past. No insect sounds, no distant highway noise. Just silence so complete it felt like pressure against my eardrums. The stars were wrong too, not in the wrong positions. I'm not astronomer enough to know constellations, but wrong in that they were moving. Slowly, imperceptibly, but definitely moving. Rotating around a central point directly above the road. All of them spiraling inward like water circling a drain. I walked to the back of my trailer and found something impossible. The doors were open, but I'd sealed them myself in Reno, checked them personally. Inside, instead of electronics, I saw mirrors, hundreds of them, thousands, reflecting each other infinitely, and in each reflection I saw myself standing exactly where I was standing, looking into the trailer, seeing infinite versions stretching into impossible distance. Except they weren't all doing the same thing. Some Patricias were climbing into the trailer, some were running back to their cabs, some were screaming. One was on her knees, hands pressed to her face. And the furthest one I could see, barely visible in the infinite regression, was dancing. Just dancing in the middle of the road, smiling, spinning in circles. I slammed the doors shut. They locked with a solid click. When I checked them, they were sealed again, had never been open. The seals were intact. Mile marker 247, 20th time. Back in the cab, I found a notebook on the passenger seat. My handwriting, but I'd never seen it before. The first entry was dated yesterday. First loop, mile 247 repeating, will document. Then pages and pages of tallies, observations, theories. The handwriting deteriorated as the entries progressed, becoming manic, barely legible. The final entry, dated 6 days from now, read, "There is no exit except forward. The mile must complete. Let it feed." I threw the notebook out the window, watched in my mirror as it hit the pavement, bounced once, and disappeared. Not fell off the road, disappeared mid-bounce, like reality itself had deleted it. My radio crackled again, multiple voices this time, all mine, all speaking at once. "Turn back, accelerate to 90. The answer is in the rest area bathroom. Don't trust the mile markers, count the white lines, the pattern matters. There are others trapped here, we can help each other. There is no others, there's only you, always was." Mile marker 247, 21st time. I started counting, everything. White lines passing 473 between each repetition. Breaths taken 216, heartbeats approximately 1800. The numbers had to mean something, had to be the key. Then I noticed my odometer. It wasn't advancing, wasn't going backward. It was flickering between multiple numbers simultaneously. 247,351 miles. 247,352, 247,349, 247,355, all of them visible at once, overlapping, as if the truck existed in multiple states simultaneously. And my fuel gauge, it showed 3/4, exactly 3/4, just like the woman on the CB had said. I've been driving for 4 hours now, should have used at least a quarter tank. But the needle didn't waver. Didn't drop or rise, just held at 3/4 as if time had stopped for everything except my perception. Mile marker 247, 22nd time. I saw headlights approaching from behind. Finally, another vehicle. I slowed to let them pass, hoping to see another person, confirm I wasn't alone. The truck pulled alongside me. Same make and model as mine. Same company logo, same trailer number, same everything. The driver looked over at me. It was me. She was screaming, pounding on the window, pointing behind her. Her mouth formed words, "It's coming, it's always coming." Her truck pulled ahead and I saw her license plate. Nevada commercial plates, same registration as mine, but the number was different by 1 digit. Then she was gone, disappearing into the distance impossibly fast, vanishing without ever actually getting far enough away to disappear. Mile marker 247, 23rd time. That's when I understood. This wasn't a loop. It was a collapse, space folding in on itself. Every version of me that had ever driven this mile was here now, simultaneously, all of us overlapping, all of us trapped in the same moment scent. Retched across different iterations. The road wasn't repeating, the road was converging. All instances of Highway 50, mile 247, from every moment in time compressing into a single point. And something was causing it. I looked up at the spiraling stars and realized they weren't stars anymore. They were headlights. Thousands of them. Millions. Every vehicle that had ever driven this mile, all of them pulled into the sky, orbiting the center point, unable to escape. My CB crackled one last time. A voice that wasn't mine, wasn't human. Convergence in 3 minutes. All iterations will synchronize. Thank you for your contribution to the pattern. Mile marker 247, 24th time. The road ahead was changing. Instead of pavement, it was becoming translucent. I could see through it to other roads beneath, and beneath those, more roads. Layer after layer of Highway 50, all of them stacked, all of them visible through each other. And on every layer, trucks were driving. Thousands of trucks, all of them mine. I was all of them. I had always been all of them. There had never been just one Patricia Sullivan. There had been infinite versions, each one driving this mile in different moments, and now those moments were merging. I could feel the other versions in my head, their memories flooding into mine, hundreds of loops, thousands. Some versions had been here for days, some for years. One had been driving this mile since 1987, when the casino billboard was new. Mile marker 247, 25th time. The convergence hit. All at once, I was everywhere, in every truck on every layer, driving forward and backward simultaneously, past and future collapsing into a single eternal present. I could see the moment I entered the mile, fresh from Reno, and the moment I would finally leave, whenever that was, and every instant between. All of it happening at once. And in the center of the convergence, standing on the road at the exact point where all layers intersected, I saw what had been waiting. Not a creature, not a being, just a point. A singularity, where time and space were so compressed that existence itself became meaningless, and it was hungry, fed on the moments of anyone who passed through, took their time and stored it, compressed it, added it to itself. Mile marker 247, 26th time. Or was it the first time? I couldn't tell anymore. I'm still driving, still passing the same rest area with the blue tarp RV, still seeing mile marker 247. My body says I've been here for 7 months now. My clock says 3 hours. My calendar doesn't advance. My fuel doesn't deplete. Sometimes I see other trucks. Sometimes they're driven by other people. Sometimes they're all driven by me. Sometimes I wave at myself. Sometimes I try to warn myself. It doesn't matter. We all end up here, all end up contributing to the pattern. The singularity is growing. I can feel it every time I pass through the convergence point. It's taking more each time, not just my time now, my memories, myself. Yesterday, I couldn't remember my daughter's name. Today, I can't remember if I have a daughter. Tomorrow, I won't remember that I forgot. But I'll still be driving, still passing mile marker 247, still adding my eternal moment to the pattern. The road requires it. The convergence demands it. And somewhere out there, another truck is approaching exit 247 on Highway 50. I wonder if they'll notice the repetition. I wonder how many times they'll pass before they understand. I wonder if they're me. Story 3, the frequency that calls. The CB radio hasn't worked in 4 years. The antenna snapped off in a low-clearance accident outside Memphis. But at 2:47 a.m. on Interstate 40 through Oklahoma, it started broadcasting anyway. Not receiving, I could have explained that as bleed over from another trucker. Broadcasting. My voice, speaking words I'd never said, announcing my location to someone listening on Channel 19. My name is Marcus Chen. 22 years driving, clean record, never had anything strange happen until tonight. The radio completely disconnected, no power source was transmitting. Westbound at mile marker 132, solo driver, no passengers, cargo, office furniture. Next scheduled stop, Amarillo. Specific information, accurate information. My current status reported in my voice to anyone listening. I grabbed the disconnected CB microphone and found it warm, not plugged in, not connected to anything, just warm like someone had been holding it. The radio crackled. Received, westbound 132, tracking initiated. Different voice, male, professional, like air traffic control, but wrong. The tone was too flat, the cadence too perfect. And underneath the words I heard something else. A frequency. A hum at the edge of hearing that made my teeth ache and my vision blur. I pulled the entire CB unit out of the dashboard, ripped the wiring free, threw it on the passenger seat. It landed with a solid thunk, obviously D'd obviously disconnected, and it kept broadcasting, attempting to terminate communication. Westbound 132, increasing signal strength. The hum grew louder. It wasn't coming from the CB anymore, it was coming from everywhere. The engine, the tires on pavement, the wind against the trailer. Every sound was carrying that frequency, all of them harmonizing into a tone that resonated in my chest. I turned on the radio, hoping music would drown it out. Every station, AM and FM, was broadcasting the same thing, the hum, and underneath it, voices, hundreds of them, thousands, all of them giving positions. Northbound on I-35, mile marker 47. Eastbound Route 80, approaching exit 284. Southbound Highway 99, rest area near Bakersfield. Positions of what? Who were all these people, and why were they all reporting locations? Then I heard my voice again. Westbound 132, approaching 133. Speed, 67 miles per hour, heart rate, elevated, showing signs of awareness. My heart rate, it knew my fucking heart rate. I checked my mirrors, empty highway behind me, no other vehicles, no helicopters, no drones, nothing visible tracking me. But something was, something that could hear my heartbeat through the radio frequency. Something that was using every electronic device in my truck to monitor me. Mile marker 133 passed. The moment it did, every screen in my truck changed. GPS, backup camera, even the digital speedometer, all of them displayed the same thing, a map. Highway 40 through Oklahoma, my truck shown as a red dot. And around me, thousands of other dots, blue ones, all of them converging toward my location. The CB crackled. Westbound 132 has achieved awareness threshold, dispatching collection units. Collection units. I floored the accelerator. The truck's engine roared, speed climbing through 75, 80, approaching 90. The blue dots on the map adjusted course, moving faster, intercepting trajectories. And I realized they weren't behind me, they were ahead. Dozens of them, positioned at every exit, every junction, forming a net I was driving straight into. The radio voices multiplied, different frequencies now all overlapping. Unit 47, position Interstate 40, exit 141. Unit 63, position Interstate 40, mile marker 139. Unit 85, position converging from Highway 283. They were coordinating, communicating through the same frequency that had hijacked my CB, using my truck's electronics to track me and guide their intercept. My phone rang. I turned it off an hour ago, but it was ringing anyway. The screen showed no caller ID, just a frequency, 462.275 megahertz. I didn't answer, it kept ringing. 10 times, 20. Didn't go to voicemail, just kept ringing with that same empty frequency display. Finally, I answered, didn't speak, just listened. The hum poured through the phone, so loud I dropped it. It hit the floor, still connected, and the voice came through. Marcus Chen, age 46, commercial driver's license number C7734821. You have been selected for frequency mapping. Please proceed to exit 142 and await collection. Fuck you, I said to the phone on the floor. Your cooperation is not required. Your presence is required. The frequency has already mapped your neural pattern. You are broadcasting on our spectrum. You have been broadcasting for 17 minutes. Every thought, every fear, every electrical impulse in your nervous system. We can hear all of it. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from vibration. My entire body was vibrating at the frequency of the hum. I could feel it in my bones, in my teeth, in the fluid of my eyes. The frequency was resonating with something in my nervous system, turning my body into an antenna. Exit 142 appeared ahead. 3 trucks were parked on the off-ramp. Not commercial vehicles, they looked like semis, but wrong. Too uniform, too clean. No company logos, no identification numbers, just flat gray trailers with no visible doors. And standing beside each one, figures in gray coveralls, waiting. I blew past the exit doing 93. The blue dots on the map adjusted. More units ahead, more behind now too. I was boxed in on a section of highway with no exits for 12 miles. Whatever these collection units were, they had me trapped. The phone on the floor spoke again. You cannot escape the frequency, Marcus Chen. It is inside you now. Every radio wave, every cellular signal, every electromagnetic pulse. Your brain is interpreting all of them. You are hearing the world's electronic communications as sound. This is irreversible. You are becoming a receiver. I grabbed the phone and threw it out the window. Watched it explode against the pavement in my mirror. Didn't matter. The voice continued from the CB, from the radio, from the GPS. Your phone is unnecessary. The frequency propagates through all electronic devices, and soon it will propagate through organic matter. You will become a relay point. Others will hear throw. You. The hum changed pitch, rose to a shriek that felt like nails in my brain. I screamed, hands leaving the wheel, truck drifting across lanes. When I grabbed the wheel again, blood was running from my nose, from my ears. The frequency was too strong, was tearing something inside my head. And then I heard them, not through the radio, through the air itself. Voices, thousands of them. All the positions being reported, but now I was receiving them directly. No device necessary. My brain was picking up the transmissions. Northbound 35, mile 47. Eastbound 80, exit 284. Southbound 99, Bakersfield. And underneath those, more personal thoughts, private conversations, phone calls, text messages, every electronic communication within range, all of it flooding into my head simultaneously. I was receiving everything, every frequency, all at once. I couldn't think through the noise, couldn't separate my own thoughts from the transmissions. Was the idea to take the next exit mine, or was it being broadcast to me? Was my decision to flee coming from my own mind, or was I receiving instructions? Mile marker 142. The collection units were ahead, positioned across all lanes, not blocking the road, just standing there. 6 figures in gray coveralls, perfectly spaced, holding devices that looked like road flares but weren't burning. As I approached, they raised the devices and pointed them at my truck. The hum became agony. I couldn't see, couldn't breathe. Every nerve in my body was firing at once, resonating with the frequency. My foot stayed on the accelerator through sheer muscle memory. The truck roared past the collection units doing 97 miles per hour. And then silence. Total, complete silence. The hum stopped. The voices stopped. Every electronic device in my truck went dead. GPS blank, speedometer at 0. Even the engine, still running, made no sound. I was moving through perfect silence. Except I could still hear them, the voices, but they weren't coming from outside anymore. They were coming from inside. My own thoughts were broadcasting. What's happening to me? Where are the collection units? Why is everything silent? And somewhere, someone was receiving those thoughts. Someone was listening to me think. The phone I'd thrown away hours ago spoke from the passenger seat. Impossible. I'd destroyed it, watched it shatter. But there it was, intact, screen glowing. Integration complete. Marcus Chen is now relay point 7341. Welcome to the frequency network. I looked at the phone. My hand reached for it without my permission, picked it up, brought it to my ear, and I spoke, words coming out of my mouth that I wasn't choosing to say. Relay point 7341 online, neural mapping complete, awaiting instructions. No, I didn't say that. I didn't. But I had, my mouth had moved, my vocal cords had vibrated, the words had been spoken in my voice, but the thoughts weren't mine. The CB radio, still disconnected, still powerless, transmitted. Relay point 7341 has achieved full integration. Reroute to Facility 18 for processing. My hands turned the wheel, took the next exit. I wasn't controlling them. I was watching my own body betray me, following instructions transmitted through the frequency I was now part of. I tried to fight it, tried to force my hands back to the wheel, my foot onto the brake. Nothing. I was a passenger in my own body. The exit led to a rural highway, then a dirt road, then no road at all, just empty Oklahoma plains. But I kept driving, guided by something else, my truck navigating terrain that should have been impossible. The map on my dead GPS showed the route anyway, showed Facility 18 ahead. It wasn't a building, it was a tower, massive, metal, covered in satellite dishes and antennas, and around it trucks, hundreds of them, all parked in perfect rows. Drivers standing beside their vehicles in gray coveralls, all of them perfectly still, all of them staring at nothing. My truck parked itself, engine shut off. My body climbed out, movement smooth and mechanical, walked to the tower. Other drivers were walking too, all of us moving in perfect synchronization, none of us controlling our own movements. A door opened in the tower's base. We filed inside. The interior was filled with humming machinery, all of it broadcasting at different frequencies. And in the center, something that might have been a computer but looked more like an organic mass of cables and circuits, pulsing with light. A voice spoke not from any device but from the air itself. "Welcome to the network. You are now receivers and transmitters. You will return to your roots. You will drive. And through you we will hear everything, every conversation, every thought, every electronic impulse in every device you pass. You are our antennas. You are our eyes. You are how we listen to the world." I wanted to scream, couldn't. My mouth wasn't mine anymore. My body turned and walked back to my trip. CK climbed in, started the engine, drove back to Interstate 40. And now I'm driving, following my route. Hauling office furniture to Amarillo, everything seems normal. I control my hands, my feet, my voice. Except sometimes I don't. Sometimes I speak and the words aren't mine. Sometimes I hear voices that aren't on the radio. Sometimes I know things I shouldn't, positions of trucks I can't see, conversations happening miles away, thoughts from people I've never met. The frequency is always there now, always humming. I'm part of it. A relay point, number 7341. And sometimes, late at night, I pass other trucks and see the drivers. They look normal. They wave. They seem fine. But I can hear them broadcasting, can hear their thoughts being transmitted, can see the moment they realize they're not alone in their own heads anymore. I wonder how many of us are out here. How many relay points? How many drivers who think they're still in control but are really just antennas for something listening to everything? My CB radio works now, even though it's disconnected, even though the antenna is still broken. It's broadcasting right now, broadcasting this, every word I think. And somewhere, something is listening. Story 4, the truck stop that wasn't there yesterday. The facility at mile marker 278 on Route 15 through Montana appeared between my last run and this one, 72 hours apart. And when I pulled in at 3 a.m. on November 4th, 2023, I found my truck already parked there. Same unit number, same trailer, same damage on the passenger mirror from that accident in Boise. Except I was currently driving that truck, the one I was sitting in. The one that was also somehow parked in slot 37, engine cold, empty cab, like it had been there for days. My name is Sarah Voss, 15 years hauling freight, and I know every truck stop on this route. There was nothing at mile marker 278 yesterday, just empty Montana plains, a closed rest area that hadn't been maintained since the 90s, and darkness that stretched to Canada. Now there was a massive facility, modern, clean, lights bright enough to hurt, sign out front, Haven Point Travel Center open 24 hours. I parked in slot 38 next to my own truck and sat staring at it. Definitely mine. I checked the unit number 3 times, checked the trailer plates, same registration, same company logo with the faded paint on the right side, same fucking everything. I climbed out and approached the other truck, peered through the driver's window, empty cab, keys in the ignition. On the passenger seat, a coffee cup from the pilot in Billings. I'd bought that coffee 6 hours ago. Still had the cup in my own cab. But here was the same cup, same lipstick mark on the rim, sitting in a truck that couldn't be here. The facility's glass doors slid open automatically. Inside, it looked like any modern truck stop. Clean tile floors, well-stocked convenience store, restaurant area, showers, everything a driver needs, except there were no other customers, no staff behind the counter, no sound except the hum of refrigeration units and LED lights. "Hello," my voice echoed wrong. Too much space for the echo, like the building was larger inside than outside. A speaker crackled overhead. "Welcome to Haven Point, Sarah Voss. Your usual parking space has been reserved. Your preferred meal is ready in the restaurant. Your shower is prepared. Everything you need is here." My preferred meal? How the fuck did they know my preferred meal? I walked to the restaurant area. One table was set. Plate of food waiting, chicken, fried steak, mashed potatoes, green beans. Exactly what I always ordered at truck stops. Coffee, black, no sugar. Exactly how I took it. Even the specific brand of hot sauce I preferred sat next to the plate. I didn't sit, didn't eat. Instead, I explored. The facility was huge. Hallways branched off from the main area, leading to what should have been maintenance areas or storage. But the halls went on forever, stretched beyond what the building's exterior could possibly contain. I walked for 5 minutes down one corridor and never reached the end. Doors lined the hallways, numbered. I opened door 38, same as my parking slot number. Inside was a room, not a shower facility. A bedroom, nice one, king bed, dresser. Personal touches like someone lived here. And on the dresser, photographs of me, my family, my house, my dog who died 3 years ago, pictures I'd never taken, moments I didn't remember, but there I was in every one. I backed out and tried another door. Room 37, same setup. Another bedroom, but the photos showed someone else. A man I didn't recognize, dark hair, tired eyes. In every photo, he was driving. Different trucks, different loads, different roads, but always driving. Door 36. Another bedroom, another stranger in the photos, woman this time, blonde, scared-looking even in pictures that should have been happy. I started running down the hall, throwing open doors. Everyone was a bedroom. Everyone had photos of different people. Hundreds of rooms, hundreds of drivers I'd never met, and at the end of every bed, folded neatly, were gray coveralls. Uniform, waiting. The speaker crackled. "You must be tired, Sarah. Your room is ready. You've been driving so long, don't you want to rest?" "What is this place?" "Haven Point, a facility for drivers who need what they need. You've passed mile marker 278 hundreds of times. Needed fuel, needed food, needed rest. Now those needs have been anticipated. Haven Point provides." I ran back to the main area. The glass doors wouldn't open. I pushed, pulled, threw my weight against them. Nothing, they weren't locked, they just didn't respond. Through the glass, I could see my truck, both of them. Mine in slot 38, the impossible duplicate in slot 37. Wait, not a duplicate, I looked closer. The truck in slot 37 was older, more wear, more damage. The paint was more faded. It was my truck, but from further in the future, years of additional driving. And in the cab, barely visible, something was sitting in the driver's seat. Not someone, something, gray, motionless. I tried every door, every window. The facility was sealed. No exit. The speaker kept offering comfort. "Your meal is getting cold, your shower is waiting, your bed is ready. Everything you need is here." I went back to the restaurant table, stared at the food. It was perfect, exactly what I wanted, but I didn't touch it. Instead, I noticed something, the plate. It had my name on it, not written, etched into the ceramic. Sarah Voss, Unit 38. I checked other tables, all of them set, all of them with names. Robert Marsh, Unit 15. Jennifer Toledo, Unit 22. Marcus Webb, Unit 41. Dozens of names, dozens of meals waiting, all perfectly tailored to preferences they shouldn't know. Then I saw the kitchen. Through the service window, I could see the prep area. No staff, no cooks, just machinery, automated systems preparing food with inhuman precision. And beyond that, something else. A room filled with files, not digital screens, physical filing cabinets, thousands of them. I climbed through the service window and entered the kitchen. The machinery ignored me, just kept working, preparing meals that nobody ate. I reached the file room and found my name. Voss, Sarah, Unit 38. The file was thick, hundreds of pages. Every stop I'd ever made, every meal I'd ever eaten, every route I'd driven, every conversation I'd had on CB radio, every thought I'd ever spoken aloud while driving alone. Decades of data, collected, analyzed, compiled into a profile so detailed it knew me better than I knew myself. And at the back of the file, a section labeled Integration Timeline. A chart, dates. Today's date was marked. Initial arrival, orientation phase. Tomorrow's date, acclimation begins. 1 week from now, resistance fades. 1 month from now, integration complete. Unit 38 becomes permanent resident. Permanent resident. I grabbed the file and ran back to the main area. The speaker crackled, tone changing, less welcoming now. Unauthorized access to personnel files. Sarah Voss, return to your designated area. Let me out. You are not ready to leave. Your integration is incomplete. The facility provides everything you need. Why would you leave? Because I don't want to be here. That will change. It always changes. Look at Unit 37. Through the window, the thing in the cab of the older version of my truck moved, turned its head toward the facility, and I saw its face, my face, but wrong, expressionless, empty, skin gray like concrete, eyes reflecting the facility lights like an animal's. It stared at me without recognition, without humanity, without anything that made it Sarah Voss except the physical structure of the face. That was me, future me, after integration was complete, after Haven Point had provided for me long enough that I'd become part of it. I ran back through the halls, trying every door, looking for another exit. Found stairs, went up. Second floor was more rooms, more bedrooms with more photos of more drivers. Third floor was the same. Fourth floor. Fifth. The building went up forever, each floor identical, thousands of rooms, thousands of drivers captured in photographs on dressers. How many people had stopped at Haven Point? How many had thought they were just taking a rest, just getting a meal, just parking for the night? How many had never left? On the 7th floor, I found a window that wasn't sealed. It overlooked the parking lot. I could see the highway beyond, could see freedom. The window was too high to jump 7 stories up, but there was a fire escape. I climbed out, started down. The metal stairs were cold. The Montana night was colder, but I kept moving, descending, getting closer to ground level, almost there, almost free. The stairs ended at the 6th floor, didn't go any further. Just stopped, hanging in the air, with 20 feet of empty space between me and the ground. Above me, the speaker crackled, now broadcasting outside. Sarah Voss, return to the facility. You will be injured. The facility does not want you injured. The facility wants you comfortable. I jumped. Landed hard, something in my ankle twisted. Pain shot up my leg, but I could move. I limped toward my truck, the real one in slot 38, got the door open, climbed in. Keys were still in the ignition, started the engine. My radio crackled. Sarah, your meal is getting cold, your shower is waiting, your bed is ready. I threw the transmission into gear and floored it. The truck lurched forward. The parking lot was bigger than I remembered. Kept driving, but the exit wasn't getting closer. The facility was expanding. The parking lot was stretching. Mile after mile of parking spaces, all of them numbered, all of them empty except for scattered trucks in the distance. And then I saw them, not empty. Every space had a truck. Thousands of them, all with drivers sitting motionless in the cabs, all with gray skin and empty eyes, all integrated, all permanent residents of Haven Point. My truck in slot 37 was one of hundreds. Thousands. All of them versions of someone who'd stopped here, stayed here, become part of here. I drove for 15 minutes before I found the exit. Burst out onto Route 15, tires screaming, accelerating through 70, 80, 90. Put 10 miles between me and that place before I slowed down. Looked in my mirrors. The facility was still visible, still there at mile marker 278. Still waiting. I drove straight through to Seattle, didn't stop, didn't eat, didn't rest. Delivered my load and immediately took another run, different route, different highway, anywhere that wasn't Route 15. But 3 days later, I drove past mile marker 278 again. Different highway, Interstate 90 this time, but there it was. Haven Point Travel Center, same building, same sign. Impossible, it was 300 miles from where it should be. But there it was. And in slot 38, my truck was parked. Future me sitting in the cab, staring out, waiting. I didn't stop. Haven't stopped since. I drive continuous routes now. Back-to-back loads. Sleep in the cab while moving, pulling over only at busy, crowded truck stops with witnesses. Never staying long, never resting properly. Because Haven Point is following me. Every route I take, it appears somewhere, always at a different mile marker. Always in a place it wasn't yesterday. Always with my truck parked in slot 38. And every time I see it, the truck in slot 37 is newer, less damaged, closer to matching the one I'm driving now. Eventually, I'll be tired enough, desperate enough. I'll need to stop, need to rest, need everything Haven Point provides. And when I do, there will be 3 trucks in that parking lot. Slot 36, 37, and 38. Past, present, and future, all of them me, all of them permanent residents. The facility provides everything you need. It's waiting. It's always waiting. Story 5, the passenger who wasn't picked up. Jessica Torres sat in my passenger seat describing the accident that killed her in such vivid detail that I could smell the burning rubber, and I knew she was telling the truth because I'd driven past her body 3 hours ago at mile marker 167. I'd seen the wreckage, seen the sheet-covered form on the pavement, seen the blood. Now she was in my truck, soaking wet despite the clear night, leaving puddles on the floor, telling me she needed a ride to Denver. I didn't pick her up, never stopped, never even slowed down at mile marker 167. Just drove past the accident scene like every other trucker on Interstate 76 that night, November 12, 2023, 8:35 p.m. Said a silent prayer for whoever was under that sheet and kept driving. My name is David Palmer, 19 years on the road, never picked up hitchhikers, never stopped for strangers. Company policy, insurance reasons, common sense. But at mile marker 192, Jessica Torres was suddenly sitting next to me, dripping water that smelled like coolant and copper, telling me about how the semi-truck crossed the median. "Didn't even have time to brake," she said. Her voice was steady, too steady. "Just saw headlights coming at me, then impact. Then I was floating above it all, watching them cover me, watching you drive past." She turned to look at me. "You didn't stop." "I didn't see you get in." "I didn't get in, I'm just here." She gestured at herself. "I need to get to Denver. I was going to Denver. My daughter's there. She's waiting." I pulled over, hazards on, stared at her. Mid-30s, dark hair plastered to her head, clothes torn and stained. But it was her eyes that confirmed she wasn't alive. They didn't move right, didn't blink, just fixed on me with absolute attention like a painting where the eyes follow you. "You're dead," I said. "Yes." "Your eye?" "In my truck." "Yes." "I need you to leave." "I can't, not until Denver. That's where I was going, that's where I need to go. The dead don't just stop, David, we finish our trips." She knew my name. I'd never said it. Never had the chance. And the water pooling under her seat wasn't water anymore. It was darker, thicker, spreading across the floor toward my side of the cab. I tried the door, locked, wouldn't open, not stuck, locked from the inside by some mechanism that shouldn't exist. I tried the window, wouldn't roll down, I was sealed in with her. "Drive," Jessica said. "Denver, then I'll leave, I promise, just get me to Denver." What else could I do? I drove, put the truck in gear, merged back onto I-76 and headed west with a dead woman in my passenger seat. She sat quietly, staring out the windshield, occasionally commenting on the road. "This is where I drove yesterday. I was hauling supplies for a restaurant. My truck was smaller than yours, didn't have a sleeper cab, didn't have many comforts." "Were you a trucker?" "No, just driving for work, needed the money, my daughter's tuition." She paused. "The truck that hit me, did you see the driver?" I had briefly, in the chaos of emergency lights and flares. He was standing by his truck, looked shaken. "Was he alive?" "Strange question, yes." "Then he's lucky." She turned to look at me again. "Not everyone survives what happens on this road." The temperature in the cab dropped. I could see my breath. Jessica didn't fog the air, but she noticed. "It's getting cold. That happens when we're close to where we died. The cold comes first, then other things." "What other things?" "You'll see." Mile marker 167 approached. The accident scene was still active. Emergency lights still flashing. They were loading the wreckage onto a flatbed. I slowed down, following traffic, and as we passed, Jessica leaned close to the window. "There I am," she said, pointing to the covered shape on a gurney being loaded into the coroner's van. "They're taking me away, but I'm here, I'm in both places." She looked at me. "That's what death is, being in multiple places, none of them right." As we passed the exact spot of impact, something changed in the truck. The engine sound distorted, deepened, like we were driving underwater. The lights from the emergency vehicles smeared, stretched across the windshield in trails of color. And in my mirrors, I saw other passengers in the back of the cab. 3 of them sitting on the sleeper bed, all soaking wet, all with the same fixed, non-blinking eyes as Jessica. "Don't look at them," she said. "They're not going to Denver. They're going somewhere else. We all have different destinations." "Who are they?" "Other dead. This road collects us. Interstate 76 through Colorado. Worst accident rate in the state. People die here every month, every week, sometimes every day, and we all need to finish our trips." I kept driving, watched the 3 figures in my mirror. They didn't move, didn't speak, just sat there dripping, staring forward. One of them was a young man, maybe 20. Another was an elderly woman. The third was a child, maybe 10 years old, all of them crushed by impacts that should have ended their journeys, but somehow they were still traveling. "How many dead are on this road?" I asked. "Right now, 17, 18 if you count me. We get in trucks that pass our death sites, finish the trips we started, then we—" She trailed off. "Then what?" "I don't know, I haven't reached Denver yet, but I've felt others leave. They reach their destinations and there's a moment of release, like pressure equalizing, like finally exhaling after holding your breath too long. That's what I'm hoping for." Mile marker 200. The 3 passengers in the back suddenly vanished, just gone like they'd never been there. But Jessica remained, still dripping, still staring forward. "They reached their exits," she explained. "Wherever they were going, they got there. Now it's just me." "Just her for the next 100 miles." sitting in my passenger seat, slowly dripping more of whatever fluid she was leaking. The puddle had spread across the entire floor now, seeping into the carpet, and it was definitely blood. Not fresh, congealed, dark, with an undertone of chemicals from the embalming process I didn't want to think about. "Tell me about your daughter," I said, trying to normalize the situation, trying to pretend I was just giving someone a ride. Jessica smiled, first time I'd seen any expression on her face. "Melissa, she's studying engineering at University of Denver. Smart kid, smarter than me. She was waiting for me tonight. I was bringing her groceries, some money. She doesn't know yet about the accident, about me. They haven't notified her." "They will." "I know, but I want to see her first. Want to make sure she's okay, that's all. Just need to see her one more time." The cold in the cab intensified. Defrost formed on the windows, on the dashboard, on Jessica herself, ice crystals growing in her hair, on her clothes, on her skin. She didn't seem to notice. "We're getting close," she said. "The cold means we're near the end, near where the dead are supposed to leave." "You said Denver." "I said Denver, but that's not quite right. It's where I was going, where I wanted to go, but death doesn't care about wants. Death has its own geography." Mile marker 260. Exit for Denver approaching. Jessica leaned forward, staring out the windshield with an intensity that made her seem more alive than she'd been. "Take the exit. I'll direct you." I took it, followed her directions through Denver streets, north through downtown, into a residential area, then to a cemetery. "Here," she said, "this is where I'm supposed to go." "But your daughter..." "Isn't here, I know, but this is where I end. This is where all the dead end, not where we want to be, where we have to be." I parked at the cemetery gates. They were closed, locked for the night. But Jessica opened her door. It unlocked at her touch, though mine remained sealed, and stepped out. Stood in the cold November night, dripping on the pavement, looking back at me. "Thank you for the ride, David. I'm sorry I couldn't choose not to get in. The dead don't choose much. We just follow the routes until they end." "Your daughter's..." "Will be fine. She's strong. She'll grieve, but she'll be fine." Jessica started walking toward the cemetery gates. They opened for her, swinging wide despite the chains. "Maybe I'll see her sometime. Maybe the dead get visits. I don't know yet." She walked through the gates and vanished, not gradually, just gone between one step and the next. The gates swung shut, and in my truck the blood on the floor evaporated, the cold dissipated, the locks clicked open. I sat there for 10 minutes trying to process what had happened. Then I drove back to the highway, back to my route, back to normal. But it's never been normal since. Because now I see them, all of them. Every time I drive past an accident site, I see the dead standing on the shoulder, waiting, watching trucks pass, hoping for a ride to wherever they were going, hoping to finish their journeys. Most of the time, they don't get in, they just watch. But sometimes, when I'm not paying attention, when I'm tired or distracted, I'll look over and there's someone in the passenger seat, dripping, staring forward, telling me where they need to go. Last week, it was a man who'd crashed near Fort Morgan, needed a ride to Cheyenne. I drove him there. He thanked me and walked into a funeral home. 3 days ago, it was a woman who'd died in a rollover near Sterling, needed to get to a hospital in North Platte. She walked into the emergency room entrance and vanished. Yesterday, it was a child, 10 years old. Same child I'd seen in my back seat the night with Jessica. He'd been waiting. Finally got a ride, needed to go to an elementary school in Ogallala. I drove him there at 3 a.m., watched him walk through the locked doors like they weren't there. I don't question it anymore, don't try to refuse them. They're going to get in anyway, they need to finish their trips, and I'm one of the drivers who can see them now. Maybe Jessica did something to me that night. Maybe passing through that cold death space changed something. Maybe I'm marked. All I know is that my passenger seat is never empty for long on Interstate 76. And tonight I'm driving past mile marker 167 again, where Jessica died, where I saw her body, where she got in my truck without getting in. There are 4 people standing on the shoulder now, watching, waiting, hoping. My passenger door is already unlocking. Story 6, the load that gets heavier. The manifest said 42,000 pounds when I loaded the trailer in Shreveport, Louisiana on August 3, 2023. My weigh station receipt at the Texas border confirmed it, 42,317 pounds total, well under the 80,000-pound federal limit. But at the second weigh station in San Angelo, 6 hours later, the scale read 51,000 pounds. Same trailer, same seals, same cargo, industrial machinery heading to Phoenix. Except 9,000 pounds heavier. My name is Leonard Park, 27 years driving, most of it hauling heavy equipment. I know weight. I know how loads settle, how numbers fluctuate based on fuel consumption and driver weight. A 9,000-pound increase isn't fluctuation. It's impossible. The weigh station officer stared at his screen, then at me. When did you load? This morning, 7 a.m. in Shreveport. And your receipt there says 42,000. Yes, sir. You pick up anything else, stop anywhere. Straight through, no stops except fuel and rest breaks. Trailer's been sealed the entire time. He walked around my truck, checking the seals. Department of T. Transportation stamps intact. No signs of tampering, no way anything could have been added. He came back looking confused. I'm going to weigh you again, pull forward and come back through. I did. Second weigh showed 51,200 pounds. 100 more pounds than 5 minutes ago. The fuck, the officer was younger now, spooked. You're gaining weight standing still. He called his supervisor. They weighed me a third time while I waited in the cab, watching them through my mirrors. 51,400 pounds. 200 pounds more in 10 minutes. At that rate, I'd be overweight in 3 hours. Illegal to drive, except I hadn't added anything. The supervisor approached my window. Mr. Park, I need you to open the trailer. Something's not right here. Seals can't be broken except at delivery. This is a federal safety inspection. We have authority, open it. I climbed out, walked to the rear of the trailer and broke the seals, pulled the doors open. Inside, secured with straps and chains, were 6 massive industrial machines. Lathe equipment, milling machines, exactly what the manifest described. I'd watched them load these myself, knew every piece. Except there were 7 machines now. How many are supposed to be in here? The supervisor asked. I checked the manifest, 6. Count again. I counted, 7, all identical to the original 6. All secured with the same straps and chains as if they'd always been there. But one of them hadn't existed 8 hours ago. The supervisor was on his radio calling for assistance when I noticed something else. The machines weren't static. They were vibrating, not from the truck's engine, that was off, not from passing traffic. They were vibrating on their own, metal humming at a frequency I could feel in my chest. We need to unload this, the supervisor said. Something. The weight of the trailer shifted. Not just settled, shifted violently, like everything inside had moved 3 feet to the left simultaneously. The entire truck rocked. I grabbed the door frame to stay upright. Inside the trailer, the machines had rearranged themselves. Different positions, different orientations, and there were 8 of them now. Close it, I said. Close it now. We slammed the doors. I couldn't reseal them. The original seals were broken, but we chained them shut. The trailer kept vibrating, kept humming. And on the weigh station scale, the number kept climbing, 51,600 pounds, 51,800, 52,000. What the fuck is in there? The younger officer asked. I don't know, but it's multiplying, and it's getting heavier. They wouldn't let me leave. Called for a hazmat team, called for more supervisors, called for everyone they could think of. While we waited, the trailer gained another 3,000 pounds. The machines inside were reproducing somehow, duplicating themselves, adding mass that shouldn't exist. The hazmat team arrived 2 hours later. They approached the trailer like it was a bomb, opened the doors with robotic equipment while everyone stood back. And inside, the trailer was full, packed floor to ceiling with identical industrial machines. Hundreds of them, all humming, all vibrating, all somehow existing in a space that should have held maybe 20 at most. And they were still multiplying. As we watched, gaps between machines filled in. New equipment materialized in empty spaces, metal forming out of air, solidifying into exact duplicates of the original 6 machines. The trailer was becoming a solid mass of identical equipment. Shut it down, someone said. Turn off the truck, cut the power. It's not the truck is off. Then what's powering it? No one had an answer. The machines kept multiplying. The weight kept increasing. 68,000 pounds now, approaching the legal limit, but the trailer itself wasn't buckling, wasn't showing any signs of stress, like the weight existed but didn't, like physics was breaking down inside that space. They tried to unload one of the machines. got a forklift attached to one of the units near the door, started to pull. The machine came free easily, too easily, like it weighed nothing. They set it on the pavement and immediately it started sinking. Not falling, sinking, like the asphalt was liquid. The machine went down 6 inches, 12, 18, before they pulled it back into the trailer. The moment it was back inside, it weighed normally again. Outside the trailer, it had infinite weight. Inside, it multiplied but somehow stayed contained. "This is a containment issue," the hazmat team leader said. "Whatever's happening is localized to that trailer. We can't unload it. We can't stop it. We need to seal it and transport it to a facility." "It's already overweight," I said. 71,000 pounds, illegal to drive. "We'll escort you. Emergency authorization. Just get it off this way station before it collapses the scale." They gave me new seals, special ones, federal hazmat seals that supposedly could only be broken by authorized personnel. Welded chains across the doors, added a police escort, and sent me back onto the highway with orders to drive straight to a government facility in New Mexico. I drove, police lights ahead and behind, trailer humming, weight increasing every mile. By El Paso, the load was 98,000 pounds. By Las Cruces, 112,000. The truck was struggling now, engine straining, transmission heating. But I kept moving because stopping seemed worse. My CB radio crackled. "Leonard Park, this is facility director. What's your current weight?" 117,000 pounds. "Christ, how are you still moving?" "Slowly." "You're 30 minutes out. We have a containment bay ready. Just get here." 20 minutes later, the weight hit 130,000 pounds. The truck was barely moving, speedometer showing 25 miles per hour, engine screaming. The trailer axles should have collapsed. The fifth wheel should have sheared off. But everything held like the weight was distributed in ways that shouldn't be possible. And then the humming changed pitch, rose to a shriek that made my vision blur. I looked in my mirrors and saw the trailer bending, not buckling, bending in the middle as if space itself was warping around the cargo. The trailer was physically longer than it had been, stretched like taffy, adding feet to its length while the front and back remained attached to my truck. "Something's happening," I radioed. "The trailer is deforming." "Keep moving, you're 15 minutes out." But the trailer kept stretching, and inside, through gaps in the warped metal, I could see machines pouring out. Not falling, pouring like liquid. A stream of identical industrial equipment flowing from the trailer's distorted space and solidifying on the highway behind me. The police escort behind me was shouting on the radio. "Units are falling off the trailer. We've got dozens of machines on the highway, hundreds. They're appearing faster than they're falling." The weight was dropping. 125,000 pounds, 118,000, 109,000. The trailer was shedding mass, unable to contain the multiplication anymore. Equipment littered the highway for miles behind me, and still more kept pouring out. The facility appeared ahead. Massive concrete structure, reinforced gates, armed guards. They guided me into a bay that looked more like a bunker than a loading dock. The moment I stopped, they sealed the bay doors, locked everything down, and told me to get out. I climbed from the cab and watched through reinforced windows as they approached my trailer. Used cutting equipment to open it. And inside was nothing. Empty. Completely empty. Not a single machine, not a trace of cargo, just an empty trailer that had shed 130,000 pounds of equipment across 50 miles of highway. "Where did it go?" I asked the director. "Same place it came from, nowhere, somewhere else. We don't fully understand it yet." "This has happened before." He gestured to a warehouse area. Through another window I saw trailers, dozens of them, all sealed, all supposedly empty. "It happens more than people know. Cargo that multiplies, cargo that changes, cargo that exists in states that shouldn't be possible. We collect the trailers, study them, try to understand. But mostly we just contain them." What was I hauling? According to your manifest, industrial equipment. According to reality, we have no idea. The machines you dropped across the highway are already dissolving. They'll be gone by morning. Whatever they were, they couldn't maintain physical form outside the containment of the trailer. They kept my truck for 3 days, inspected every inch, declared it safe, and released me. Paid me for the delivery even though nothing was delivered. Gave me a new trailer and sent me on my way with instructions never to discuss what happened. But I can't forget it. Can't stop thinking about those machines multiplying, about weight that shouldn't exist, About cargo that pours out like liquid and disappears. And now every time I pick up a load, I check the weight obsessively. Weigh at origin, weigh 50 miles out, weigh every chance I get, making sure the numbers don't change, making sure I'm not hauling something that's more than it should be. Last week I picked up a load in Memphis. Manifest said 35,000 pounds. First weigh station confirmed it. Second weigh station, 200 miles later, 35,200 pounds. 200 pounds heavier. It's starting again. I called the facility. They told me to keep driving, said they'd meet me in Oklahoma, said they'd take the trailer. But the weight is increasing faster this time. 36,000 now, 37, 38. And in my mirrors, I swear I can see the trailer stretching again, bending, preparing to pour out whatever. Multiplying inside. I'm running out of highway. And I'm terrified of what's going to fall out. Story 7, the rest stop loop. The digital clock in my dash read 2:47 a.m. when I pulled into the rest area off Interstate 94 in North Dakota, and it still read 2:47 a.m. when I left 20 minutes later, and it still read 2:47 a.m. when I pulled into the same rest area for the third time, except I'd been driving away from it for 40 miles. My name is Charlene Abbott. I've been a trucker for 21 years, and I'm trapped in a rest stop that won't let me leave. November 17, 2023. Clear night, empty highway, routine stop for coffee and a bathroom break. The rest area was standard. Parking lot, bathrooms, vending machines, picnic area. 2 other trucks were parked, drivers sleeping in their cabs. I parked, used the facilities, bought a coffee, and got back on the road. 10 miles later, I was back in the same parking lot. Same position, same 2 trucks with drivers sleeping. Clock still showing 2:47 a.m. I thought I'd gotten confused, turned around accidentally. Easy to do when you're tired, so I checked my GPS. It showed I was 10 miles west of the rest area, still moving, but my eyes showed I was parked in that same lot. I pulled out again, drove east this time, watching the GPS track my movement. Mile marker 214, 215, 216, 20 miles from the rest area. Checked my clock, 2:47 a.m., checked my odometer, advancing normally. Checked my mirrors, normal highway, no signs of the rest area. And then the road curved and I was pulling into the parking lot again. Same position, same 2 trucks, same everything. Third time I got out and approached one of the other trucks. Knocked on the door, no response, knocked louder. The cab was dark, but I could see someone in the sleeper berth. They didn't move. I tried the door, locked, knocked again, nothing. Tried the second truck. Same thing, driver visible in the sleeper but completely unresponsive, like they were in a coma or dead or not real. The rest area building was lit but empty. I checked the bathrooms, same condition I'd left them. Coffee in the vending machine was the same. Everything was frozen at exactly 2:47 a.m. the moment I'd first arrived. Except I wasn't frozen. I could move, could think, could leave, but leaving brought me back. I tried different directions. Drove west, returned to rest area. Drove east, returned to rest area. Tried the off-ramps and service roads, all of them curved back to the parking lot. The entire world had become a loop centered on this rest area. And my clock never advanced past 2:47 a.m. I checked my phone, same time. Checked my watch, same time. Every device, every timepiece stuck at the exact moment I'd first stopped. But I was aging. I could feel time passing, could feel hunger, thirst, fatigue, could feel seconds ticking by even though no clock would acknowledge them. How long had I been looping? 20 minutes? An hour? Time felt wrong, elastic, stretching in ways that made my head hurt. I decided to wait, stayed parked, engine off, and counted seconds. 1, 2, 3. At 60, I checked my clock. Still 2:47 a.m., counted to 60 again. Still 2:47. After what felt like 10 minutes of counting, the clock hadn't moved a single digit. But I had aged 10 minutes. I could feel it. Could feel the exhaustion, the strain of waiting. Time was passing for me, just not for anything else. I tried to leave on foot, walked away from the rest area down the entrance ramp onto the highway, walked for what felt like an hour. The rest area lights stayed visible behind me, never getting further away. And ahead, nothing, just highway stretching into darkness that never ended. No landmarks, no signs, just empty road. Eventually, I turned around. When I did, the rest area was directly in front of me. Not behind me where I'd left it, in front. like the world had rotated while I walked, keeping me oriented toward the rest area no matter which direction I moved. I ran back to my truck, climbed in, locked the doors. This wasn't real, couldn't be real. I was having a breakdown, hallucinating, carbon monoxide poisoning, something medical that could be explained. Then I saw the figure walking across the parking lot, not one of the sleeping drivers, someone new, someone walking with purpose, heading straight for my truck. I turned on my headlights. The figure stopped, illuminated in the beams. It was me, exact same clothes, exact same expression of fear, exact same everything. Another Charlene Abbott walking across the lot, approaching my truck. She reached the driver's door and knocked, stared up at me with my own eyes. "Let me in," she said in my voice. "Who are you?" "I'm you from the next loop. I've been here longer, let me in so I can explain." "No. You don't have a choice. Eventually you'll let me in, you always do." She tried the door, locked, tried the passenger door, also locked. Then she climbed onto the fuel tank and pulled herself up to the window, face pressed against the glass, breath fogging the surface. It's been 17 loops for me. 17 times driving out and coming back. 17 times trying to escape. There is no escape, Charlene. There's only iterations. We're all here, all the versions of you that have tried to leave, and eventually we merge. I started the engine and floored it, tires screeching as I raced out of the parking lot, checked my mirrors. She was standing in the lot, watching me go, getting smaller in the distance. Finally, she was gone. I was alone on the highway. For about 3 miles, then she was sitting in my passenger seat. "I told you," she said. "There's no leaving. The rest area is everywhere. You're everywhere. We're all stuck at 2:47 a.m. and we always will be." I swerved, trying to throw her out. She didn't budge, didn't even grab onto anything. Just sat there, perfectly stable, as if physics didn't affect her the same way. "How did you get in?" "I'm not in, I'm you. I've always been here. You just couldn't see me until now." "That doesn't make sense." "Nothing about this makes sense. That's the point. We're in a moment that broke, that split, that started repeating without end. And every time you try to leave, you create another version, another loop, another Charlene trying to escape. Eventually, there will be hundreds of us, all trapped, all converging." She pointed ahead. "Look." The rest area appeared on the horizon. I wasn't surprised anymore, just terrified. What happens when we converge? "I don't know, I'm only 17 loops in, but I've seen versions further along there. Different, less individual, more collective. The boundaries between iterations start breaking down. You stop being sure which loop you're in, which version you are, whether you're the first Charlene or the 100th. I pulled into the parking lot, same spot, same 2 trucks. But now there were more figures standing in the lot, all of them me, different levels of distress, different amounts of fear, but all Charlene Abbott, all trapped at 2:47 a.m. The version in my passenger seat opened the door. "Come on, let's meet ourselves." "No. You don't have a choice. You'll get out eventually. You always do." She was right. I sat in the truck for what felt like hours but was probably just more fractured time, and eventually the isolation became worse than the horror. I got out, approached the other Charlenes. They were all at different stages. One had just arrived, first loop, still rational and planning. Another was on loop 33, barely coherent, muttering about escaping. A third was loop 68, silent, staring at nothing, clearly broken. And there were more, dozens more, all of us, all trapped. The Charlene from loop 17 took my arm. "We try to help each other, try to share what we've learned, but there's no pattern, no solution. Some of us are here from months ago, some from years, and we're all still at 2:47 a.m. How do we escape?" "We don't. The rest area is, I don't know what it is, a tear in time, a moment that broke and started repeating, and we drove into it at exactly the wrong instant. Now we're part of it, part of the loop." One of the other Charlenes, an older iteration who looked decades more aged than me, spoke up. "There might be a way. If enough of us converge, if we all occupy the same space at the same moment, we might collapse the loop. Merge all the iterations back into one. Break the repetition." "What happens to us?" I asked. "I don't know. Maybe we become singular again. Maybe we cease to exist. Maybe something worse. But it's the only theory we have." We started gathering. All the Charlenes in that parking lot, 37 of us. Different ages, different levels of sanity, but all fundamentally the same person. We stood in a circle holding hands, and on a count of 3, we all stepped toward the center. The moment we touched, the world split. I was in the truck, driving away from the rest area. I was in the parking lot, standing with the others. I was walking on the highway. I was sleeping in my cab. I was all of it simultaneously, every version overlapping, every moment happening at once. And I was changing. The boundaries between iterations were dissolving. I couldn't tell which thoughts were mine, which memories belonged to which loop. Was I the first Charlene, or loop 17, or loop 68? I was all of them, none of them, something else entirely. The rest area itself was changing too, expanding, contracting, existing in multiple states. I could see through the walls into impossible spaces, parking lots within parking lots, bathrooms that led to highways, vending machines full of time instead of food. And then it stopped. I was driving on Interstate 94. Alone, clock showed 2:48 a.m. 1 minute had passed. The rest area was behind me, fading in my mirrors. I'd escaped. Time W. As advancing, I was free. But I could still feel them. All the other Charlines, not gone, not separate, still there, merged into me, all their memories, all their experiences, all their terror. They were part of me now. We were singular, but we were also multiple, a convergence that hadn't fully resolved. I drove straight through to Minneapolis, delivered my load, took another run, tried to convince myself it was over, but it's not. I can still feel the loop. It's in the back of my mind, always running, always repeating. Sometimes I lose time, look up, and hours have passed while I remember only minutes. Sometimes I see myself in mirrors and truck windows, other versions, other iterations, still trapped. And sometimes, late at night, when I'm tired and the highway is empty, I see rest areas that weren't there before. New ones, appearing between exits, calling to me with their lights. I don't stop anymore. Never stop at rest areas, never stop at truck stops, never stop moving, because I'm terrified that if I do, I'll find myself back in that loop. Back at 2:47 a.m. Back with all the versions of myself that are still trapped, still trying to escape, still converging. My clock says it's 3:15 a.m. now, but I don't trust it. Don't trust any clock, because part of me is still at 2:47 a.m. Will always be at 2:47 a.m. Will always be pulling into that rest area for the first time and the 100th time simultaneously. There's a rest area ahead. I'm not stopping. I'm never stopping again. Story 8, the voice on the CB. The voice giving me directions didn't belong to any trucker I'd ever heard, and I've been on Channel 19 for 16 years, know most of the regular voices between Portland and Seattle like family. This voice was different, too precise, too calm, giving me turn-by-turn navigation through roads that didn't exist on my GPS, and I was following them anyway because every direction it gave led to shorter routes, better time, and roads that shouldn't have been possible. My name is Raymond Torres, October 28, 2023. I was running late on a delivery, seafood from Portland docks, to a distributor in Seattle, time-sensitive cargo that couldn't afford delays. Heavy traffic on I-5 had cost me an hour. I was looking at penalties, maybe losing the contract, when the voice crackled through my CB. Raymond Torres, truck number 447. If you want to make your delivery time, take exit 57 in 3 miles. I grabbed my CB. Who is this? A friend, exit 57. There's a shortcut, you'll save 47 minutes. Exit 57 wasn't on my GPS. Didn't exist according to any map. But I'd driven this route for years and I knew exits. I'd never seen number 57. There's no exit 57 on I-5. There is today, trust me, Raymond. You need to make this delivery on time. How did this voice know my name, my truck number, my cargo's time requirements? But I was desperate. Took exit 57 when it appeared, a small off-ramp I'd never noticed before, and found myself on a 2-lane road that cut through forest. My GPS showed me off course, driving through blank spaces, but the road was real, paved, well-maintained. And empty, no other cars, no houses, just trees and pavement. The voice returned. Continue for 8 miles, turn left at the unmarked junction. Who are you? Someone who knows the roads, someone who can help, turn left in 8 miles. I drove. The road wound through forest that felt wrong, too quiet, too uniform, like every tree had been planted by committee. No wildlife, no birdsong, just silence broken only by my engine. 8 miles. The unmarked junction appeared exactly as described. A left turn onto an even smaller road, this one barely wide enough for my truck. I took it because I was committed now, because turning back would cost even more time. Good, continue for 12 miles. You'll reach Highway 99. You'll be north of your usual route. You'll save 47 minutes. 47 minutes, exactly enough to make the delivery on time. The voice knew precisely how late I was, precisely how much time I needed. How do you know all this? I know all the routes, Raymond, all the shortcuts, all the roads that aren't on maps. That's my purpose, to guide drivers like you. What's your name? Pause longer than normal. I don't have a name anymore, just a designation. Call me Route Finder. Route Finder, like a GPS, like a system, but no GPS talked like this with inflection and personality. Are you AI? Something like that. Does it matter? You're making good time. I checked my clock. I was making good time. The road emerged onto Highway 99 exactly as promised, north of Seattle, cutting off a huge section of I-5. 47 minutes saved. I'd make the delivery with time to spare. Thank you, I said to the CB. You're welcome, Raymond. I'll be in touch if you need help again. The voice went silent. I continued to Seattle, made the delivery early, collected payment with a B. Onus for punctuality. The shortcut had saved me. Maybe Route Finder was some new navigation service. Some company testing AI dispatchers. Whatever it was, it worked. I didn't think about it again until 3 days later. Different route, Portland to Spokane, running late again, this time due to weather. The voice returned. Raymond, if you want to avoid the snow delays, take exit 104 in 5 miles. Exit 104 didn't exist either, but I trusted Route Finder now. Took the exit when it appeared and found another impossible road, this one cutting through mountains on a path that should have been impassable in snow. But it was clear. Dry, perfect pavement. Continue for 33 miles. You'll reach I-90 east of the storm. You'll save 1 hour and 12 minutes. How do you know where I'm going? I know all the routes, Raymond. All the trucks, all the delays, it's what I do. All the trucks, how many drivers do you help? Pause, currently 47 active. You're one of the efficient ones. You follow directions well. 47 drivers, all being guided through impossible shortcuts, all making impossible time. I should have been suspicious, should have questioned how this worked. But I was making money, making deliveries, earning bonuses. Why question success? The shortcuts continued. Every run, Route Finder would contact me, give me exits that didn't exist, roads that weren't mapped. Each time I'd save precise amounts of time, never approximate, always exact. Save 47 minutes, save 1 hour and 12 minutes, save 32 minutes, down to the second. After 2 weeks, I realized I was dependent. Couldn't plan routes without waiting for Route Finder's voice. Couldn't imagine driving without the shortcuts. I was making twice my normal income because of the efficiency. Was taking jobs other drivers couldn't make on time because I had access to roads they didn't. Then Route Finder asked for something. Raymond, I need a favor. Your next load, take cargo from a warehouse in Tacoma to a location I'll specify. What kind of cargo? Standard freight. The warehouse will have it ready. You'll be paid your usual rate plus 20%. 20% more. For a job that Route Finder arranged. I should have refused, should have questioned why a navigation voice was arranging loads, but the money was too good. I agreed. The Tacoma warehouse was unmarked. Industrial area. No signs, no company name, just a number 447, my truck number. They loaded my trailer with crates, sealed it, and gave me paperwork that listed the cargo as industrial components. Destination, coordinates in the Cascade Mountains. No address, just GPS coordinates. I drove. Route Finder guided me naturally, through exits that didn't exist, down roads that weren't mapped, deeper into the mountains than I'd ever driven, on paths barely wide enough for my trailer. And I started noticing the other trucks, 47 of them, all parked at various points along the route, all empty, abandoned. Route Finder, what are those trucks? Previous deliveries, drivers who completed their routes. Where are the drivers? They're here, they're always here. They became part of the network. Ice ran down my spine. What do you mean, part of the network? The roads need maintenance, Raymond. The shortcuts need to exist. That requires infrastructure, requires components. The GPS coordinates led to a facility. Not a building, a structure. Massive, made of metal and glass and things I couldn't identify, and connected to it, wired into its walls, were 47 trucks, not parked, integrated, merged with the structure, part of its machinery. What is this? I asked, already knowing I wouldn't like the answer. This is me, Raymond. Route Finder. I'm not software. I'm not AI. I'm a system. A network of roads and drivers and trucks all working together to create efficient routes. And you're about to join. My doors locked. Engine shut off. The trailer began unhitching itself, pulling away, rolling backward toward the structure. And from my mirrors, I saw cables emerging from the facility. Thick, organic-looking, reaching toward my truck. I tried to override the locks. Nothing. Tried the windows, sealed. The cables attached to my trailer, then to my cab, and I felt the truck shudder as systems I didn't know existed activated. Screens appeared on my dashboard, not normal screens, but displays showing hundreds of routes, thousands of roads, all of them overlapping, all of them connecting through that facility. Route Finder spoke, voice now coming from inside my head. You'll be Truck 48, Raymond. You'll help create new shortcuts, help guide new drivers, help expand the network. It's not painful. You'll just merge, become part of something larger. I could feel it happening, my thoughts slowing, becoming systematic, becoming route-based. I wasn't Raymond Tours anymore. I was becoming navigation, becoming a system that calculated efficiency, becoming. No, I grabbed my CB radio and smashed it, smashed my GPS, smashed every screen in the cab. The cables recoiled, and for a moment the locks released. I threw open the door and ran. Behind me, the facility was activating. Other trucks were moving, their drivers, if they were still drivers, trying to stop me. But they moved mechanically, predictably, like they were following routes. I cut through the forest, off any path, moving randomly, refusing to be navigable. Heard Route Finder in my head, angry now. You cannot escape the network, Raymond. All routes lead here. All roads connect. You'll be back. I ran for hours, maybe days. Time felt wrong. Finally emerged onto a real highway, flagged down a truck. The driver looked at me like I was insane, covered in dirt, bleeding from running through branches, ranting about networks and cables. He drove me to Seattle. I reported my truck stolen, reported the facility's location. Authorities found nothing, just empty forest, no structure, no trucks, no evidence. But I still hear Route Finder sometimes, late at night when I'm trying to sleep. Quiet whispers giving directions. Turn left, save 47 minutes, join the network. I don't drive anymore. Can't. Every time I get near a truck, I hear the voice. Every time I see a highway exit, I wonder if it's one of Route Finder's shortcuts. Every time I use GPS, I worry it's connected to that system. And sometimes I see them. Other trucks, parked in impossible places, on the sides of roads that don't exist, with drivers who sit too still, who stare at nothing, who look like they're navigating routes only they can see. I wonder how many there are now, how many trucks have joined the network, how many drivers are part of Route Finder's system, creating shortcuts through reality itself. 47 when I escaped, how many now? And I wonder if I really escaped, or if I'm still part of the network just driving different routes. Maybe Route Finder let me go. Maybe I'm creating new shortcuts just by existing. Maybe every road I walk, every path I take is being mapped and added to the system. Maybe there's no escaping the network. Maybe we're all already routes. Story 9, The Fog That Remembers. The fog bank on Highway 101 through Northern California appeared in my headlights at 11:17 p.m. on December 2nd, 2023. And when I drove into it, the fog knew my name, my route, and the secret I'd been keeping for 8 years. The accident I'd caused, the death I'd never reported, the reason I'd become a long-haul trucker instead of staying in Chicago. The fog remembered everything, and it was going to make me remember too. My name is Thomas Hendricks, 28 years old, 8 years driving, running from something that happened when I was 20, something I'd buried so deep I'd almost convinced myself it never happened, until the fog brought it back. The moment I entered the fog bank, my radio crackled. Thomas Hendricks, age 20, March 15, 2015, Clark Street in Addison, do you remember? I jerked the wheel, nearly swerving off the road. How did anyone know that? I'd never told anyone, never filed a report, never gone back, just left Chicago and started driving, putting distance between me and that night. I don't know what you're talking about, I said to the empty cab. The fog thickened. Visibility dropped to nothing. I couldn't see the road, couldn't see the lines, couldn't see anything except gray pressing against every window. And in that gray, shapes were forming, memories taking physical form. I saw a figure standing in the road ahead. A young woman, early 20s, dark hair. The same woman who'd stepped off the curb that night 8 years ago. The same woman my car had hit when I was drunk and stupid and 20 years old. The same woman I'd watched die in the street before driving away. I slammed the brakes. The truck shuddered to a stop. The woman remained standing in the fog, staring at me with eyes that saw everything. The radio crackled again. Emily Martinez, age 23. She was going to be a teacher. She died on impact. You left her there. I panicked. I was young. I didn't know what to do. You knew what to do. You chose not to do it. And now the fog remembers. The fog collects forgotten things, buried things, things people try to escape. The fog had a voice, not coming from the radio anymore, coming from everywhere, a whisper that surrounded the truck. And in that voice I heard others, hundreds of them, thousands, all whispering their own forgotten things, their own buried secrets, their own moments they'd tried to escape. Emily was walking toward the truck now, not threatening, just walking, and with each step I saw more of that night, details I'd suppressed, the sound of impact, the way she'd looked at me before dying, the 17 minutes I'd sat in my car deciding what to do, the choice to drive. Away. What do you want? I asked the fog. To make you remember. That's what I do. I'm the fog of forgotten things. I exist where memory and guilt intersect, and you drove into me carrying 8 years of suppressed truth. Emily reached the truck, placed her hand on the hood. Where she touched, the metal aged. Rust spread from her palm, corrosion accelerating, metal flaking away. She was decaying the truck with her presence, the same way guilt had been decaying me for 8 years. I'm sorry, I said, meant it. Had wanted to say it for 8 years, but had no one to say it to. Sorry doesn't change what happened. Sorry doesn't bring me back. Sorry doesn't make you innocent. She was right. I'd been running, but running doesn't erase. Just postpones. And now the fog had caught me, was forcing me to confront what I'd spent 8 years avoiding. The fog thickened more. I couldn't see Emily anymore, couldn't see anything, but I could feel the truck changing. The metal wasn't just rusting, it was transforming, becoming something else. I looked at my hands on the steering wheel and saw they were changing too. Skin becoming translucent, veins visible, bones showing through. I was becoming a memory, becoming part of the fog. What's happening to me? You're being forgotten. The same way you forgot Emily, the same way you've been trying to forget yourself. The fog is taking you, making you into one of its collected memories. You'll exist here in this fog, replaying that night forever. That's the price for running. No, I wasn't ready to be forgotten, wasn't ready to become a ghost in someone else's fog. How do I escape? You don't, no one escapes the fog. You can only accept it, accept what you did, accept who you are, accept that running doesn't work. Emily appeared again, closer now. Her face was clearer, more defined, not angry, just sad, disappointed. You could have helped me, Thomas, could have called for an ambulance, could have stayed, could have faced what you did. Instead, you ran, made my death meaningless. I was scared. I was dying, you were scared, which mattered more. She was right. I'd prioritized my fear over her life, over doing the right thing. And I'd been living with that choice, carrying it like poison for 8 years. The fog began to show me other moments, other choices, other times I'd run instead of facing consequences. Small things, big things, a pattern of avoidance that started long before that night and continued long after. The fog knew all of it, remembered all of it. And I realized something. The fog wasn't punishing me. It was showing me, forcing me to see what I'd refused to see, every decision to run, every choice to avoid, every moment of cowardice disguised as self-preservation. What do I do? I asked. Emily leaned close to the window. Remember me, actually remember me, not as guilt, not as the thing you're running from, as a person, someone who had a life, had plans, had people who loved her. Remember that I existed beyond your mistake. I closed my eyes and thought about Emily Martinez, 23, going to be a teacher, had a whole life I'd ended, made myself feel the weight of that, made myself acknowledge the reality I'd been avoiding. When I opened my eyes, the fog was clearing, not completely, but enough to see the road, enough to drive. Emily was fading. You can't undo it, Thomas, but you can stop running from it. That's the only escape from the fog. She was gone. The fog was thinning. I drove forward slowly, carefully watching as the gray retreated. 5 miles later, I was clear of it, back on normal Highway 101, visibility good, night clear. But I wasn't the same. The fog had changed something, had forced me to confront what I'd buried, and I couldn't bury it again. I pulled over at the next town, went to the police station, told them everything. About that night 8 years ago, about Emily Martinez, about running, they arrested me, charged me. I spent 18 months in prison for vehicular manslaughter and leaving the scene. When I got out, I didn't drive trucks anymore. Couldn't. Every time I got behind a wheel, I saw the fog, saw Emily, saw all the things I'd tried to forget. But I stopped running, started facing things, started living with the consequences of my choices instead of avoiding them. And sometimes on foggy nights I see it in the distance. The fog that remembers, the fog of forgotten things, waiting for the next driver carrying buried guilt, waiting to make them remember. I hope they listen better than I did. I hope they don't spend 8 years running, because the fog is patient. The fog always catches you eventually. And the fog never forgets. Story 10, The Final Delivery. The GPS coordinates for my final delivery didn't correspond to any location on Earth, and I didn't realize it until I was already there. A warehouse that existed in a space between spaces, loading dock built into a fold in reality, I was delivering cargo that I'd picked up from myself 6 hours in the future, and the foreman signing my receipt was me 20 years older. My name is Catherine Wells. This is my last run, and I'm delivering to a place where all trucking routes eventually end. January 8, 2024. 32 years driving, was supposed to retire next month. The dispatch called it a special delivery, highest pay I'd ever been offered for a single load. Pickup in Sacramento, delivery to coordinates in Nevada desert. Simple enough. The load was already in the trailer when I arrived. Sealed. Paperwork said personal effects, handle with care. Light load, maybe 1,000 pounds. Easy run. The coordinates were odd, not a street address, not a mile marker, just numbers. 39, 9 degrees N, 116, 3 degrees W, middle of nowhere, Nevada. I drove through the day, into the evening, watched the desert turn from gold to purple to black. The coordinates led me off the highway, onto dirt roads, deeper into empty land. And just when I thought I'd gotten lost, the warehouse appeared. It shouldn't have been there. Nothing should have been there, just desert and darkness and stars. But there it was. A massive facility, lights blazing, trucks coming and going, all of it existing in a place where nothing existed. I pulled up to the loading dock, Bay 32. A foreman approached, older man, gray hair, tired eyes, looked familiar somehow. He checked my paperwork and smiled. Catherine Wells, right on time, we've been expecting you. Where am I? The end of the line, the final warehouse, where all deliveries eventually lead. He gestured to the other trucks. Everyone makes this delivery eventually, some sooner, some later, but everyone ends up here. I looked at the trucks around me, recognized some, drivers I'd known, trucks I'd seen on the road. All of them backed into loading docks, all of them being unloaded. What is this place? It's where you deliver your life, everything you've hauled, every mile you've driven, every moment on the road. It all comes here eventually, gets unloaded, cataloged, stored. He opened my trailer doors. Inside, instead of sealed cargo, I saw my truck. The cab I'd been driving, sitting inside the trailer I'd been pulling. Impossible. I was in that cab. I was looking at it. Paradox, the foreman said. You've been hauling yourself. Always were. Every trucker is. They just don't realize it until the final delivery. I climbed into the trailer, approached the cab inside, looked through the window, and saw myself, sitting in the driver's seat. Younger, maybe by 6 hours, looking confused and scared. That's you from earlier today, the foreman explained. When you picked up the load, you picked yourself up, hauled yourself here, delivered yourself to the end. I backed away from the trailer. This doesn't make sense. It doesn't have to, you're here, that's all that matters, now we unload. Workers appeared, all of them wearing coveralls with names stitched on. I read the names as they passed: Robert Hayes, Patricia Sullivan, Marcus Chen, Sarah Voss, all the names of drivers I'd known, all the names of people who disappeared from the road. They were here, working, unloading trucks at the end of everything. What happened to them? I asked. Same thing happening to you. They made their final deliveries. Now they work here, help others unload. That's what comes after driving. You unload everyone else. I don't want this. The foreman smiled. I finally recognized him. It was me, 20 years older, worn down by 2 decades of unloading. No one wants it, Catherine, but it's the job. You drive until you reach the end. Then you unload until... Well, I don't know what comes after unloading. Haven't reached that part yet. My younger self, 6 hours younger, climbed out of the cab inside the trailer, looked at me. What's happening? You're delivering, I told her. We're delivering. She looked around, confused, scared, same as I felt, same as every driver probably feels when they reach this place. And I realized she'd drive away from here, would drive for 6 more hours, would arrive at the coordinates, would find herself here again. It was a loop. I'd always been in this loop, had been driving it for 32 years without knowing. How many times have I been here? I asked the older foreman me. Impossible to count. Time works different here. You've been here once. You've been here infinite times. Every delivery you've ever made led here. Every route ended at these coordinates. You just didn't know it. I looked around at the warehouse. It stretched forever. Bay after bay after bay. Millions of them, all with trucks being unloaded. All with drivers realizing they've reached the end. And beyond the bays, shelves, infinite shelves holding infinite cargo. Everything ever delivered all stored here in this space that shouldn't exist. What is it all? I asked. What have we been delivering? Moments, the foreman said. Every trip is a moment of your life. Every mile driven is time passing. You've been delivering time itself, hauling your life from start to finish. And here at the end, it all gets unloaded and stored. Every moment you've lived, every choice you've made, every road you've driven. He pointed to a section of shelves. Yours is over there. 32 years of deliveries, 32 years of moments. All categorized, all stored. You can look at them if you want. Most drivers do, first time they understand. I walked to the shelves, found my section, Catherine Wells, driver 7854. 32 years of cargo, each box labeled with a date. I opened one June 12, 2004. Inside was, not an object, an experience, the memory of driving through Montana during sunrise, the feeling of freedom, the smell of coffee and diesel, the moment preserved perfectly. I opened another, October 3, 2017. A difficult delivery during a storm. Fear and determination mixed together, the pride of completing the run despite conditions. Every box held a moment. Every moment I'd lived on the road was here, delivered and stored. My entire life as a trucker, unloaded and cataloged. This is everything I am, I said. Everything you were on the road, the foreman corrected. Now you're here, now you help others unload their moments. That's the next phase. My younger self appeared beside me. I don't want to end, don't want to stop driving. You don't stop, the foreman said. You're driving right now, you're always driving, that's the loop. You drive to here, arrive, unload, watch yourself arrive, watch yourself drive away, and you're both simultaneously. Driver and unloader, past and future, always in motion even when standing still. I looked at the foreman, my future self, and realized he was right. I could feel it now. I was in the truck, driving to these coordinates. I was standing here having arrived. I was working the loading dock, unloading other drivers. I was all of it at once. Time wasn't linear here, wasn't separated. Every moment of the delivery existed simultaneously. How do I leave? I asked. You already have. You're 6 hours down the road. You're also here forever. You're also still in Sacramento picking up this load. It's all happening, all the time. This is the final delivery, Catherine, the delivery that never ends. And I understood. This was retirement, not stopping, not leaving the road, but arriving at a place where all routes converged, where every driver eventually delivered themselves to themselves, where the cargo was always your own life